Stick turns, fakes the give, sets in the pockets, got time, stepping up. Now the pressure comes, getting a hit, going to go down. Al-Quadin Mohammed got him that time, sacked him back at the 39-yard line.
It is week 1 of the regular season, and that means the Twentyman the Huddle podcast is back. And I thought the special occasion of week 1, you have to bring in, one of the ringers here from the podcast is TJ Lang. Always love to have you on. Always
is that what it is, or
the
it's the Green Bay Detroit connection?
It's everything. The Green Bay obviously plays.
Try to
there.
butter me up.
There's some question marks with the offensive line, obviously. So you're an expert there. So there's a lot of reasons why it makes sense to have you on. But number one is you're one of my favorite guests.
Oh, wow.
So that's just where it
goes on
starts.
until like week 14 last year. Something changed.
Yeah.
I got busted a little bit. Oh, thanks for having me, though, man.
No, I'm excited about it. And look, let's start with this. Obviously, you did play in Green Bay. They haven't had a week 1 opener there for, I think it was like 4 or 5 years they've started on the road. I'm just curious. They are loyal fans there just as much as Detroit. What's that environment like week 1 at Lambeau Field in Green Bay?
Yeah. Rowdy, especially after what's happened the last 10 days up in Green Bay. I imagine it's going to be a lot of enthusiasm. Much like any team. I mean, you want to see it's a new year, right? There's 32 teams out there, 32 fan bases that feel like, man, like this is our year. We got a chance to go do it. Green Bay, no different. And they are one of those teams that, I think is going to be a contender. Now, I love starting. I always like starting early in the season with division matchups because it's like, here we go.
You know what I mean?
Like we can't ease into this.
Yeah.
And opportunity for both of these teams really to see where you measure up against the other. I mean, Green Bay is getting obviously a lot of love after the Micah Parsons trade. I know we'll get into, and Detroit's looking at it saying, man, we were 6-0 in the division last year. We've got back-to-back, division championship titles sitting on our mantle. So, we know it's division's always going to be a battle, but these are always games that players talk about all the time, right? It means more. It means a game and a half. It means 2 games, right? If we can win our division games, that's where we get to your first goal of, ultimately securing that division. It happens week 1. We get to see both these teams pretty healthy, which you don't always get in those late season division games. And I think it's just an opportunity to go out there and see where you stack up, man. Like, this is going to be a heck of an opportunity for the Lions Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, and for Green Bay, you can send a message, hey, we're here.
Yeah.
We're in the division hunt. You mentioned the 6-0 last year, and for Detroit, it's, hey, we're still top dogs. This division still goes through Detroit. So to your point, there's so much on the line here for a week 1 game with 16 more games still to go. It's a big game, week 1. And
it is, yeah.
You mentioned Parsons. Let's get into that right away. Just what was your initial thought of the trade? A little bit unlike Green Bay, giving up future assets, first-round picks to go kind of get a guy.
Yeah.
I'm going to have Rob Demovsky on a little bit later, and we talked about it a little bit too. Just he made the point it's kind of like they're going for it, right? They're all in. They think they're one piece away from really making a run. I was just curious your perspective on the deal and what Micah brings to that defense.
Well, I was shocked at first, not because it was Green Bay, but because the last couple of years you always hear rumors about Max Crosby, right? Like, out there in Vegas, is he happy? Trey Hendrickson, Myles Garrett went through his dispute where it was very similar. I'm not going to play for Cleveland anymore. And then, here's a bag of cash. Okay, I feel better, right? I'll play. Like, that's kind of what this Micah Parsons thing felt like. You know, I got the back injury. Okay, here's, let's play your guy. You don't get rid of premier pass rushers. So that's why I was shocked. And then with Green Bay, I wasn't so much shocked it was them because of everything you said. I mean, even before they made the trade, I was viewing them as maybe a sleeper team, maybe a team that's not getting talked about enough, a team that's young, but still has a lot of experience and still has playoff experience. And everything healthy, right? Like Jordan Love last year, I think they kind of undersold maybe some of the things that he was playing through. I know he had that thumb injury that missed a couple weeks of training camp, which, that's not a great situation. But I think that when you look at that Green Bay team in totality, it's like, man, like that, yeah, they're going to be tough. Like, they're going to be a tough out again. Adding Micah Parsons just kind of solidified that. Like, okay, maybe you can't consider them a sleeper anymore. Maybe they're really going to be a contender. And I can't imagine that anybody in this building wasn't excited when that happened, because you want to play the best teams. You want to have the best division. You want everybody looking at the NFC North and the black and blue that it used to be, back in the 90s and 2000s, where everybody's just beating up on each other. Like you love it that way. And when you look at, getting rid of Kenny Clark, like, I can't imagine that, that won't hurt a little bit, maybe on their interior of their defensive line and from a leadership perspective that he brought over 10 years. But you bring in a guy like Micah Parsons, definitely a top 3 pass rusher in this league. He's just got an ability to change the game. So, good part is, we've got 2 pretty damn good tackles here in Penei Sewell and Taylor Decker, a couple Pro Bowl guys with some experience of playing against Micah Parsons. Right. So anytime you play a premier guy, a all-pro type of guy for the first time, you're pretty nervous because you're like, I just don't know what to expect. I haven't had my chance to put my hands on him yet. I haven't had a chance to measure up his speed. Well, both these guys have, right? And I imagine that Micah's always that guy that moves around the line a little bit, but I would think that, that would give Penei and Taylor a little bit of confidence knowing that they've had reps against him, knowing that they've played a couple football games against him on the road already. Dallas, Green Bay, a little different. You're going from turf to grass. But, that probably gives those guys like, okay, no problem. Like, we play great pass rushers every week. You know what I mean? Like, it's nothing new for tackles in the NFL these days. But I think that it's definitely a luxury to have those 2 guys.
You didn't play in the game last year, the Detroit's blowout win, but a couple sacks and 4 quarterback hits. I went back and looked in 22 and 23 when they played against him. So obviously some experience there to your point. And that's a nice combo there with Sean Gary now too. 7.5 sacks led Green Bay last year. So now you add a guy who averages 13. That's 20 sacks between those 2 guys on average. Gives them a little something in their pass rush for sure.
No doubt. And it's the Lions are obviously, this offensive line will be ready for it. I mean, they week 1 is always tough because you get unscouted looks. Yeah. Right. You don't see a lot during the preseason. That's something that, it could either be a disadvantage or you could use to your advantage. I mean, even talking about, with John Morton, what he wants to do offensively, is he going to show a lot of the things that Ben Johnson did last year? Is he going to change a lot of things up and say, man, they haven't had the tape to watch these plays?
The unscouted looks go both ways.
Unscouted looks go both ways, and you're going to have to adjust. You're going to have to communicate. But personnel-wise, you're going to have to know where number 1 is for the Green Bay defense if he's out there. We'll see, obviously how that back holds up. Maybe on a pitch count, maybe not. Maybe he's full go. But definitely a guy that you're going to have to know where he's at every single play.
All right, you brought it up, so let's talk about it. The Detroit Lions offensive line. Obviously you had the Frank Ragnow retirement. There's no replacing Frank, right? An all-pro player, right. One of the top 2 centers in the league, in my opinion. But you get an experienced guy. Graham Glasgow started 38 games at center. It's not like this is his first rodeo. And he snapped the ball to Jared Goff. He's played center in Detroit. How big of an impact do you think that move in particular is, replacing Frank with Graham? Yeah,
I mean, look, it's unfair to compare anybody to Frank, right? To one of the best centers this game's seen in the last, 5-6 years. So, that's not a knock when you say, you take Frank out, put somebody else in there, that it's not going to be as good. But maybe it does have potential to be good. We obviously know, and this isn't a knock against Frank either, we know that he played through a lot of injuries. And Frank, I don't think, was ever really at 100% over the last maybe year and a half, right? Yeah. Graham, he's a veteran guy, but like you said, he's got a ton of experience there. And I think when they made that switch, when Tate was getting all the reps in the offseason and to start training camp, and then they decided to move Graham back, I don't think that was, anything negative about either guys. I just think that maybe was their best combination. And maybe a little bit more comforting, knowing that, Graham does have that veteran experience at playing that position, especially with the schedule that they have and the road games and we're talking about Green Bay, but the couple road games you have to do after this, like, that's tough for a rookie center. It's not easy for a rookie guard, but it's tough for a rookie center when you're out there trying to communicate in some of those environments. So I think that was just probably the right move. And I think probably gave I would imagine Jared probably was more comfortable with it as well, having a veteran guy up there that he can trust to get you in the right offense, make the right identifications, read the defense, get you, whether it's run game, pass game, identifying the right people, probably makes Jared feel better too. So I think solidifies those guys. But certainly, we got to see what that looks like, right? Got to see what that combination looks like. And we talked about the tackles. Mahogany, I loved what he did last year. I mean, he started in a playoff game, right, as a rookie, right? So and played well. Played really well. And you talk about getting thrown in the fire. It's like, well, good luck, kid. And he went out there and, like you said, played well. So I'm excited to see him take another step, especially with having his first NFL training camp under his belt because he was out the first couple months last year. Tate, mean, obviously that they're a guy that they're excited about. They're high on. If they didn't feel like he had the capability to go out there and play, consistent football and give them some positive value, this is a team that you look at with a ton of cap space and high they'd go out and get somebody else, right? They didn't do that because they feel confident. Now, there's always going to be ups and downs with young players, with every single young player. It does not matter. Do I expect Tate to go have a, all-pro game or like a, all-pro season? No, like there's going to be up and down. But the good part is, I think more so when you're playing on the interior, you can kind of manipulate what you want to do with your run game, with your pass protections to maybe help a guy out, to let him get his feet wet a little bit, to say, okay, Graham, we're going to slide you a little bit more to the right this week to get some double teams. And Mahogany, man, like you're going to have to step up and, handle most of the one-on-ones because you've had experience doing it, right? Let's let Tate get his feet wet. Let's let him get that real taste of NFL action and then, see how – and then, okay, now we can start opening things up a little bit more. So there's definitely ways where you can help and just let guys get his feet under him a little bit, especially as young players. But expectations haven't changed in that room. I mean, you look at, opening roster from last year, three new guys playing 3 new spots. But the expectations – have not changed. We know that this offense and this team really takes on the identity of those 5 guys up front. And they know every single week's going to be a challenge. This week's no different. I'm excited to see what that first chapter looks like for them. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think I'm expecting, just like 70 plays of kick-ass football where everybody's getting back. It's like there's going to be some, like, okay, got to work on that. But, real good opportunity to go out and I think calm a lot of people's mind when it comes to that offensive line position.
I want to take you back to 2009 when you were coming into this league. What's this week like for Tate? Is it excitement? Is it nerves? What was that week like for you?
Long. I mean, it's like your first start is early in the week. I think you're excited. I mean, obviously you try to level your emotions. You get better at it, the older you get and the more experience you have. But, going back, you're like, man, like, is it Sunday yet? You know what I mean? And it's like Tuesday and it's your off day, but you're like, okay, like, I wanted the red zone plan. I want the third down plan. I want the 2-minute plan. You know what I mean? Like, I just want to get this thing going. You really have to, and I know it's very cliche, but you have to balance your emotions, right? Like, you can't get too high. You can't get too low. The week of preparation, you got to trust that what you're doing is the right plan. You got to trust your teammates, are helping you and putting you in a good spot. You got to trust that your coaches are giving you the right game plan and giving you the right keys, the right things to look at and to look for. So when you get out there on Sunday, it's like, hey, boom, like we went over this. I remember on Wednesday, like upstairs in the walkthrough, okay, I'm good, right? Like those mental reps that you take, you got to make sure that everything you do during the week of preparation matters and that you remember it because when you get out there on Sunday, it's very easy to just kind of get in that zone where it's like, blackout. I just want to go like kill some. Oh, then I missed the linebacker, right? And that was my guy. Oops, right? So you just have to balance your emotions. And I, talking with Tate throughout training camp and watching him play. I mean, I know it's preseason football there in Atlanta. The couple series that he got, so you're like, okay, like I see a guy that can control himself a little bit. Like he doesn't look like the moment's too big where it's I got to go like overdo things. I'm excited to see him play, though. I mean, he's got a ton of talent. He's a big dude. He's strong. He's physical. He's very quick. He's agile. He's great in the run game. We know that, there's probably some new wrinkles this year, but this isn't an offense that you look at and say, oh, they just run zone. Oh, they just run power. Oh, they just run this. They have to do everything. And Tate fits that mold of being able to, go reach block a 3-tech, go double team this guy up to a linebacker, go pull out on the edge. Use your athleticism, get up the sidewalk and go, get a safety 20 yards down the field. Excited to see the plan that they have and excited to see, what his first chapter looks like as a rookie in this league.
How much will playing next to Penei help him?
A ton. A ton. I mean, for both the guards. I mean, Graham obviously being a 10th-year guy and having a ton of experience, and then you look to your right, and it's like, okay, I got Penei Sewell, man. Like, and then even for Mahogany, too, who started games last year, but, looking at same thing. Okay, I got Graham. I trust him. Oh, I got Taylor Decker. Like, okay, I trust these guys, right?
Yeah.
Definitely put your mind at ease a little bit. And I think that if there are moments where you get caught or you miss a play or you miss a check or you miss a call, like, he's a guy, Penei, you can look at and be like, hey, what? Like, give it to me again. And it's bam. Okay, I got it. I'm good. Thanks. Because you have that veteran presence next to you. So that definitely makes it easier, I would say, having a guy of that stature 2 feet to your right.
Hey, but before we continue on, too, I want to say you did a great job on the broadcast.
I appreciate it. That was
preseason.
Fun. Yeah, that was fun.
That was a great little duo there. Is that kind of what you see yourself doing? Do you want to have a future?
No.
No?
I've never wanted to get into, the TV world. I always wanted to kind of do the radio because, I get to stay home half the season, right? Like I get to drive down to Ford Field Sunday mornings and I'm back for dinner on Sunday nights. The TV stuff, like, I kind of got a taste of it, and it was like, man, like I think I could do it.
Yeah.
With the schedule and the travel,
you definitely could do it.
You can't pick your own game. Now, if I was like, hey, can I just do the Lions home games? Like,
it doesn't work that way.
I could just stay home with my kids and my family. But it's obviously a big sacrifice you have to make for your family.
Yeah.
So maybe down the road. I mean, I know we're obviously still a long time, a year away from next preseason, but if that's something that I can continue to, maybe build reps at and see if there's a passion there, like it'll certainly be something I explore. But I really enjoy doing the radio stuff right now. Yeah.
All right. Before we finish, I want to go to the other side of the football because I know you, as an offensive lineman, you watch the defensive line, you watch the defense too, and just from the outside looking in every day at practice, I was really impressed with Kelvin Sheppard and what this defense looked like. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you were to give the win to the offense-defense every day in training camp, I would probably say there were more defensive wins than offensive wins throughout camp.
That's pretty natural, I think, for most teams
around
the league. Yeah. And it's just – I don't think that, scheme – and I'm not trying to disparage defensive coordinators or players, but the scheme that goes into defense isn't as, advanced as I would say offensively. So I think that offensively, especially in training camp preseason, there's a lot more thinking that goes on, and that can slow you down a little bit. Mm-hmm. The defense gets to really dictate, what they want to do. Yeah. And really, I kind of remember even last year, like going back to week 1, not a lot of high-scoring games. Kind of felt like defenses were ahead, and you really don't have a lot of film. Like I know that like we mentioned, Green Bay's defense probably having unscouted looks that you're going to have to communicate and prepare for. Kelvin Sheppard has the same advantage. I mean, he's going to have different wrinkles than Aaron Glenn did. You can't just look and say, okay, what'd they do on third down last year? Like Kelvin's going to have his own little stamp that he wants to put on things as well. So I think defenses are just generally, they get to early in the season just play a lot faster. Sure, I would say, right? And just take a little bit off. Just go beat the guy in front of you. Go win your one-on-one. It becomes more physical than it does mental really starts to, for defense, get down the line. When now you got film on, now you have to adjust. Now you've got to, the defense knows what you're doing. Okay, now I've got to, how do I outsmart them in that little cat and mouse game? Then you have to start thinking a little bit more. My perspective, my kind of opinion on it. So I'm not trying to defend the offense when you say the defense looked ahead of them, but I think that's a pretty common thing across the league. And I tell you the one thing, like, that's non-negotiable when you play for Kelvin Sheppard, and this was really no different than Aaron Glenn. Like, you better play violent. You better play physical. You better play fast. You better get to the football, right? You better, like, show some passion and enthusiasm out on that field. Yeah. Or else you can't play for this defense. And they've got the guys that do that. And especially when you look at the front four, just the violence that they can play with. And
what'd you think of Tyleek?
I think Tyleek's got a ton of potential. Mm-hmm. I do. And we only got to see him for, what was it, maybe 12, 15 snaps against Atlanta like a month ago.
Yeah.
I think that Tyleek missed a lot of the offseason, right?
Yeah.
This guy, remember, like we talked about it before the show, this guy played 16 games last year.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a full NFL season, right? Almost. I know they're 17 now, but like that's a lot to be able to, okay, now I'm going right into the combine. Now I'm going right into the draft. Now I'm going right into OTAs. Now I'm going right into, minicamp. Like, you don't really get a time off. So I'm not trying to say that's a negative, but I think Tyleek is like probably glad that the season's finally here. And like, I get to finally get into a rhythm. You know what I mean? I'm not like, you're still going to be in that grind phase. Don't get me wrong, but it's not like it is, in the offseason and training camp when you're a young player and there's just so much coming at you. I think the game's going to probably start slowing down for him a little bit. But I love the potential that he has, especially when it comes to stopping the run. I think that's going to be maybe his bread and butter early on, much like it was with Aleem McNeil when he was a young player, was like, dude, go out there, eat up blocks, free up our linebackers, don't get pushed, 3 yards off the ball. Just go hold your ground and get off blocks and make some plays. And he's shown the ability to do that. And I think that that's what this defense, especially in the run game, really revolves around. You have a linebacker as a defensive coordinator. A lot of the thing is going to be, hey, our linebackers are here to make the tackles. You guys go eat up the blocks and let the linebackers clean it up. Let them go finish it up. And Tyleek's definitely a guy that fits that mold. So I'm excited to see what he can bring. I'm excited to see what DJ Reader taking that next step. It sounds like Coach said, man, like just kind of a sneaky,
had a camp this year.
Like
Didn't have a camp last year.
Yeah, like just a sneaky, like
yeah,
dominant training camp out of a veteran guy. Like Roy Lopez, another guy that excited to watch what he can bring. I think that, if those guys all stay healthy and they can play the style of football that Kelvin wants them to, they're going to be really, really tough to run the football on. You're going to have to find really unique and creative ways as an offensive coordinator to find some holes on that defense. And especially like we already mentioned, with the linebacker group they have and with the safeties that they have that aren't afraid to come get their nose dirty. And, same with Amik Robertson. I mean, everybody on that defense, they're not afraid to tackle.
It's a prerequisite.
They almost take it like personal when you try to run the football on them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They almost take it like, are you kidding? Like a slap in the face. Like you're going to try to run the foot. So, but I love that attitude. I love the kind of the characteristics that Kelvin Sheppard wants to build on that defense.
And they've got a good test this week with Josh Jacobs. That's the top 5 rushing attack from Green Bay last year. And just to finish up your point on Tyleek too, is you can impact the game without eating up the stat sheet. And that I think will be the one thing that you watch with Tyleek playing on the other side of the line of scrimmage. Forcing disruption of plays. Maybe you don't make the tackle, but you make the back go the other way because you're on the other side of the line of scrimmage. You take up that double team to allow the linebacker or someone else on that defensive line to free up. So it might not look crazy on the stat sheet, but he can impact the game otherwise.
And that's just being, a role player. Like nobody's expecting you to come out and go get 2 sacks and 10 quarterback hits and, 4 TFLs. Like you're not expected to do that. As a young player, it doesn't matter if first-round draft pick, undrafted guy. Like, go out there, know your role in this defense, and then we can start throwing more things at you when you can go prove that you can be that consistent player. So I'm with you. I mean, it doesn't, a lot of people, they look at the stat sheet, he had 0 tackles, 0 quarterback hits. Like, like he didn't do anything. But then you watch the film and you're like, man, like, the guy wrecked the game without even having a tackle. Like that's demoralizing, right? So I think he's definitely got that ability to go out there and play that role and do whatever he can to help this defense start out with a bang on Sunday.
I'm excited. It's week 1. It's Lambeau Field. It's intra-division.
Beautiful weather.
It's beautiful weather.
It's
it's exciting that football's back, man.
No doubt.
We got football rolling. I appreciate you taking the time. As always, very informative. One of my favorite guys to have on. Appreciate you as always. Thanks, Deej.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome back to the Twentyman Huddle podcast. I am very happy to welcome in one of my favorite NFL beat reporters in the entire league. Rob Demovsky does a great job covering the Green Bay Packers for ESPN. Rob, thanks for joining me. So not much really happening in Green Bay over the last week, huh?
No, Tim, just all quiet, just getting ready for the season. They didn't trade for all-pro pass rusher. They didn't pay him $188 million. They didn't give up 2 first-round picks and one of their Pro Bowl defensive tackles. Oh, wait, they actually did. To get Micah Parsons here.
Yeah, just your first initial thoughts of the trade. Obviously, you lose a player in Kenny Clark, who here in Detroit, he was a guy that these coaches raved about, that you had to prepare for, that was in the center of that defense, obviously a Pro Bowl player, but you pick up a guy in Micah Parsons that you can now pair with Rashawn Gary, a guy who had 52.5 sacks his first 4 years in the league. He's averaged 13 a year. Just what does it mean for Green Bay's defense?
Yeah, a couple of things. Let's hit Kenny Clark first. Great player, but look, he was about to turn 30 years old. Didn't have his best year last year. The Packers like to be young. They're probably going to be the youngest or one of the youngest teams in the league again this year. So that part of it made sense. The part that was so un-Packers like was giving up 2 first-round picks. Like this is a draft and develop organization. The last time that they traded a first-round pick for a player was when they traded one for Brett Favre in 1992. So it does not happen very often, and then they traded 2 of them. But look, the biggest weakness, in my opinion, and I think in a lot of people's opinions coming out of last season, was the pass rush. And they really didn't do anything significant in free agency in that regard. They didn't draft a pass rusher until day 3, and the only real significant change they made was that they changed defensive line coaches and brought in DeMarcus Covington who had been with the Patriots for quite a while, to try to get guys like Rashawn Gary and Lucas Van Ness to be more productive. But that was basically it. So going into the season, it was still at least a perceived weakness on this team. And they sure waited until the very last minute, but I guess better late than never. And certainly to get a player of Parsons' caliber. You mentioned the numbers. The last time the Packers had one player with a double-digit sack season was the year before Micah Parsons came into the NFL. So Rashawn Gary's had some nice production, but I think he's had 9.5 a couple of years. But the last double-digit sack guy, I believe, was Zadarius Smith in 2020.
What has the fan base thought about this addition? Because from the outside looking in, from a guy from Detroit, I look at this and I think, wow, the Packers think they're one player away. Obviously they've got some of the pieces on offense, really steady offensive line, some of the pieces on defense. Was this a move that was made kind of like, hey, I think we're one piece away where we can challenge Detroit for the NFC North and we can get to a Super Bowl?
The thing is, General Manager Brian Gutekunst has said in the past when we've talked about trade deadline stuff that he's like, you're never one player away. Well, he said it again after this trade, and it's one of his go-to lines, but it sure does seem like they thought this was the final or one of the final pieces to get them there. In terms of like popularity, the draft was here, right? They drafted Matthew Golden in the first round, and he walked across that stage here, and it was chaos. Like, people went crazy because, as you know, the Packers haven't drafted a receiver in the first round here since 2002, like the longest and any team has gone without a first round receiver, and the crowd went crazy for that. If they had set up that same draft stage in the parking lot of Lambeau Field on Friday when Micah Parsons arrived and walked him across, I think it would be just as crazy of a reaction, if not more so. People here I don't think they could be more excited than they are about those two moves, especially.
Will those fans get to see Micah Parsons on the field when they kick that ball off at 4:25 Eastern time on Sunday?
It's a great question. Obviously, he didn't participate in any of training camp or really any of the offseason stuff because of either the contract or a back injury, one or both of those. People have questioned whether he has a back injury. His agent, said this week that he does have a back injury and that he started receiving treatment for it when he was with the Cowboys. I can tell you that the plan is for him to play on Sunday, but the question is how much. It'll depend on how he feels by the end of the week. But the start of his time here, he was able to do some individual drills, and from talking to a bunch of the players, that was expected to ramp up as the week went on. So, unless there's a setback, I would expect him to play at least some. I mean, he's not going to play 60 or 70 plays, but it wouldn't surprise me if he played 15, 20, 25 snaps on Sunday.
All right, Rob, enough of that defensive stuff. Let's get to the fun stuff, right? The skill positions on offense. The thing everybody wants to talk about, right? Jordan Love dealt with a thumb injury, I believe it was, missed a lot of training camp. How is he for week one, and any concerns there at all?
Well, it's his left thumb, and as everyone knows, he's a right-handed quarterback. So, I mean, it's, if you're gonna hurt a finger on any of your hands, it's better to be the non-throwing hand, right? Now it does, he was handing off a little weird, like balls that he would normally hand off like this way. With his left hand, he sort of had to turn sideways and use his right hand. And they were sort of deciding if that's the way he was going to have to do it in the game or if they were just trying to protect it from any contact in practice. He did say he's going to have it braced up, which is going to limit some of the mobility, but he was able to take snaps, from the center, was able to catch shotgun snaps. From what we've seen with no issues. So I wouldn't think there'd be anything from an injury standpoint. Now, you mentioned he missed so much time in camp. That's part of it that might be a concern. But the second part of that is most of their receivers have been hurt or missed so much time during camp. Jaden Reed barely practiced during training camp. Dontavion Wicks barely practiced. Christian Watson, of course, is out. Will miss at least the first 4 weeks. And probably a little more while he's recovering from the ACL injury. So it basically left Romeo Doubs as the only real returning experienced receiver that was there every day. And I mentioned Matthew Golden, the first-round pick. He has been everything that they could have wanted so far. I mean, Tim, I don't think he dropped a pass in any practice that we saw the entire summer. He runs routes smoothly. He catches it clean. He gets open. Obviously he's a rookie. He's never played in an NFL regular season game before, but from what we've seen, he looks to be the real deal. So there is that. But again, he has not had a ton of reps with Jordan Love either. So I think the question with the offense and the quarterback is not so much the injury, but just the time away this summer.
And to your point, you looked at Green Bay and the receiver core. I think 7.5% drop percentage. That was number one in the NFL last year. I think 25 drops was third overall. That was an issue. So they went and got Matthew Golden. And from what you're saying, he's your version of Jameson Williams and how they can use him. And we know here in Detroit just what that means for an offense and what it means for everybody else. But I'm curious about Savion Williams, too. He's a guy that I liked, your third-round draft pick, a big-body guy. How has he been, and how have Matthew and Savion kind of worked themselves into the mix?
So Savion Williams is another guy who's missed a ton of time. He's when he first got here after the draft and was going through the offseason stuff, he was wearing a red jersey, which here means no contact because he had a shoulder injury. They were easing him back in from that, and then early in training camp had a hamstring injury, so has missed a ton of time. He is back and has been back here for the last little bit practicing, but again, a guy who hasn't had a lot of work, hasn't had a lot of reps, but I can tell you from just a physical standpoint, like he's the biggest, longest, lankiest, just big bodied looking receiver that they have on this roster, but he's also athletic, shifty, and all that. It's not like he's big and slow. He is big and fast. And it would not surprise me if they try to find ways to use him in jet sweep and end around, even out of the backfield stuff. But again, the problem there is that he just doesn't have a lot of reps under his belt right now. So he could be a guy who, if he does play and is able to go, it's a small package of 15, 20 plays or something like that.
That'll be one of my favorite matchups to watch on Sunday. It's just how those new weapons, and especially after what you described, seeing from Golden and how he fits in. This Detroit secondary is probably the best secondary that I've seen in my 16 years covering the team going into a season, just from a talent and depth standpoint. So that should be a fun matchup. Rob, I'm curious on this. Those smart people in Las Vegas, once you guys made the trade for Micah Parsons, all of a sudden Green Bay clicked ahead of Detroit as the favorite for the NFC North title. I'm curious, how are people responding in Green Bay to kind of that?
Yeah, I think, and Tim, what the expectations are around here. They call this place Title Town, and while most cities, probably a lot of fan bases would be fine and be happy with the trajectory that the Packers are on. They made the quarterback change, obviously, to Jordan Love. The first year they win 9 games and win a playoff game. Last year they win 11 games. But I'll tell you what, people are impatient around here. And I think that, even before the Micah Parsons trade, they were at least from the fans, from the outside, there was a lot of pressure on this team. They've sort of done step A, but they really haven't taken step B or C, and that's getting to an NFC Championship game or getting to a Super Bowl. And to me, there's some people who call this entitled town because the fans think they're entitled to 12, 13 wins every year and playing for a chance to go to the Super Bowl. But that is the reality here, and that's the expectation. So I do think this is a bit of it's not a make or break year, but it's definitely an important year for this organization and to see where they're going as a football team.
All right, I want to end with this one, and I like to end this one quite a bit. But Rob, I'm curious, being the first week of the season, there's a lot of new faces, a lot of guys change spots. Is there a guy that maybe isn't on Lions fans' radar that maybe jumped out to you a little bit in camp, or somebody that could have an impact Sunday that maybe isn't kind of one of those guys you go in game planning for?
I'm going to give you 2 real quick, one on each side of the ball. Luke Musgrave is third-year tight end, has been hurt a ton, and you guys have seen Tucker Kraft make a bunch of plays. Well, they think they have both those guys healthy now. Musgrave is more athletic than Kraft, to be honest with you, but they haven't been able to show it. So don't be surprised if you see 88 Luke Musgrave getting a lot of opportunities. And then on the other side of the ball, he's new to the other side of the ball, but he's not new to fans. Bo Melton was a receiver here the last 2 years. He made the transition to cornerback, and they didn't do it until the last week of the offseason program. So the June minicamp moved him to cornerback. He not only made this team, but right now is probably either number 3 or 4 on the cornerback depth chart. You knew him as number 80 as a receiver. You're going to see him as number 16 as a cornerback. And keep in mind his brother, Max Melton, a cornerback in this league for the Cardinals. So there's cornerback in the family, but he had never played it before in college or the NFL. And he's going into his 3rd or 4th NFL season.
I love those stories. I love the fact that it's week 1, that we're talking about real football, and we've got a monster NFC North matchup week 1. One of these teams is going to be able to send a message to the other and to really the rest of the NFC North, whether it's, hey, we're still on top, Detroit, or Green Bay saying, hey, look at us too. We've arrived. It should be a fun one. Rob, thanks so much for taking the time. You are absolutely one of the best in the business in my book, and I appreciate it.
No problem at all. It's my pleasure, Tim.
Welcome back to the Twentyman the Huddle podcast. The man next to me needs no introduction. The left tackle extraordinaire, Taylor Decker. 10 years. Is that crazy to think about? 10 years?
Yeah, because I still feel young, at least when I get going after my warm up. But to think it's almost been a third of my life I've been in the NFL. That's crazy. That's crazy. And 10 years was always a big goal of mine. So I've been super fortunate. I've worked hard, but I've also been fortunate and lucky in other instances.
Max out that pension, right?
Yes,
that's a big one.
Yes.
Dude, we got to talk about it too. Your kids, I love it in training camp when the families and the kids come. Your daughter is getting big, and your son, 8 months old, standing up now. Just how has having kids, having a family, how's that grounded you a little bit? How's it changed you?
It's a big perspective shift, because when you go home, if you had a bad day, it doesn't matter. And it's not because it doesn't matter, but you want to go be there and you want to be present with those kids. And, when your daughter's showing you rocks that the groundhog left her in the front yard because she left cauliflower out for him, how can you not be excited about that?
Right.
And it's been, a good stress relief for me to be able to go there and be able to kind of turn off the football player and just be dad. And my wife's the same way. She's whenever you're done, she's like, don't feel any pressure from me. You got to keep playing. I just want you to be happy and do what you want to do. So, and then you got the little babies and you get to see them growing, and it's definitely a perspective shift.
Has it changed you as a player a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, it's made me want to go home. I'm going to do my work when I need to here, but when it's time to go home, I'm going to go home. I'm not going to stay here and just to stay here and just do extra stuff, just to do extra stuff.
Sometimes that's good for a player too.
It's prioritizing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's allowed me to prioritize, and then also prioritize my family, because when I can pour into them, they can pour back into me, and I can give more as a player.
We've been so used to the offensive line kind of being that steady force, right? And no question marks. We know they're going to be that unit, one of the best units on the team, but 3 new starters on the offensive line. There's a few question marks going into the season.
Right.
Obviously, Graham is a veteran guy. He's played 38, 38 games at center.
Yeah.
But just curious how you've seen it come together with 3 new starters, and just kind of what your guys' approach is heading into the season.
Well, I think the big thing is when you play next to guys for a certain amount of time, you get that nonverbal communication that you're just kind of used to. And I think when you start out next to a new guy, that nonverbal has to start out as verbal until you get a bead for, what's this guy going to do? How is he going to play this block? Does he understand the concept of this play or the technique of this defensive tackle, whatever it may be? And then it turns into nonverbal. For me, Christian, I got to play next to him last year. And then he was obviously on the team last year. So I was excited to play next to him because I see he's got some ability. But I think the big thing early on is communication, because those guys have the talent and the physical ability, but we need to function as a group.
And we saw him get a couple starts, and he played terrific when he got the opportunity. Where have you seen him maybe make his biggest jump from year 1 to year 2? Because you remember being back, in the day, that's usually where a player takes their biggest leap is year 1 to year 2. Where's Christian maybe made that jump in your opinion?
I would say his footwork. Let's slow down your footwork and let's get it clean. Because he is a physical presence out there. He is confident in his ability out there. That's huge. You want your guards to be physical players who want to go out there and hit people, and he has that. He's got every bit of that, which makes me excited to play next to him because that benefits me.
Yeah.
And, I even told Hank last year, I would love to play next to him, and I only got to play one game next to him, but I saw I saw what he wants to be as a player. And I know he will only get better from there. So I was excited to be able to play, to be able to start camp and be able to play next to him. Not that I was practicing early in camp, but I knew that that's what the plan was. And then it was up to him to, earn the spot. He did that. So I'm excited to play next to him.
From my perspective, that line really started to come together once you came back. You were out, the first week dealing, with the shoulder rehab from the off-season surgery. But it really started to gel, and you guys got a good month of work in training camp. Do you feel like that unit's at a good spot right now?
Absolutely.
Heading into week one?
Yeah, absolutely. And I, not to, give myself too much credit, but I played in this offense. I've played with these guys. I've played with Graham. I've played with Benet. I've played with Jared. There's a level of familiarity there. And then there were some guys kind of in and out of in the lineup at that left tackle spot. And then I think it's helpful for our young guys too to be able to play in between veteran players. So Christian gets to play in between, and Tate gets to play in between guys who have played a lot of ball, and me, Graham, and Panay have played a lot together.
Yeah.
So I think it's, just a level of familiarity with everybody. And then, I think it kind of started to take off, but I don't think that's all credit to me. I think we were just growing as a unit as well.
Yeah. What do you thought of Tate? The first time we saw him, I think we got a peek of him in Atlanta, had that kind of pancake block, and you see they called him a dirtbag, coming into the league, and you smile because you love that about an offensive lineman, and you talked about you love that about a guard, the physicality. Yeah. What have you seen in the rook, and is he going to kind of just step right in, and is he a fit in that room?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I think the big thing about him, similar to Christian, is he wants to play physical, and he will play physical, and he is confident out there. Like similar to Christian, I feel like their mindset's pretty similar out there, where you kind of got to go out there and do the dirty work. Hey, we're going to ask you to pull and kick out this defensive end 10 times, and they want to do it. So as far as his demeanor, like he may have been nervous at times, or he may have been, mentally fatigued or something like that, but you would never know it based on how he carries himself. Very professional about how he goes out about his business. And as far as like assignments and picking that up, for a lot of rookies, that can be an issue because we're a complicated offense. He's been just fine.
Maybe one of the more underrated moves of the offseason with Ben obviously going to Chicago and Aaron going to New York. You kind of thought maybe there'd be some staff members leaving and stuff. Just how big was it that Hank returned to you guys, especially with kind of some of the newness you guys got going on that line? But to me, that was one of the more underrated moves this offseason, was retaining him. He's one of the best offensive line coaches in the league. What does he mean to that room, and how big was it to get him back?
I mean, you cannot overstate how important Hank is, not only for like his prowess and his knowledge as an offensive line coach, but how well he manages the guys in our room. Being a guy that played a long time in the NFL, the way he manages us and manages motivating us, like he's phenomenal. And I don't want to play for another offensive line coach because I've been with him for a long time. Yeah. And we have a level of trust, and we have a good level, a good sense of communication with one another. I mean, he's brilliant as an offensive line coach. That's why it's really good if you're an interior lineman to be in this offense. You get to work with Hank. You're going to learn a lot, and he's going to put a lot on your plate, but it's going to be good for you down the road. And then just being able to work with him again. I'm so used to him. I don't want to work with anybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What have you seen from Hutch and Marcus, going against those guys for a month? We obviously didn't get to see Marcus a lot last year because of injury, but that's the Twin Towers over there. And look, you and Panay are one of the best tackle duos in the league. What's the potential for Aidan and Marcus on the other side in terms of an edge duo?
I think they could be one of the best in the NFL as well.
Really?
Obviously, everybody was question mark, is Aidan going to be healthy? He was healthy in OTAs. I did some of the OTA practices. I remember the first practice. I'm like, oh, he's just fine. And I remember I think I saw Shep had a media day where he was talking about ICA better player.
Yeah,
I do too.
Really?
I mean, he just turned it up a notch, and it's really unbelievable what he was able to do with his recovery, to not only get back to where he was but also improve. And then with Marcus, I'm of the opinion that when healthy, he is the best athlete on the defense.
Really?
I think he is a phenomenal athlete. You look at some of his measurables and his numbers in the weight room and running. I mean, he's off the charts. he's just had bad luck with his health.
Right.
And I think the way he plays the game, he plays the game hard, and he is super physical, so he beats up his body. So as long as we can keep him going, I think he's going to be super valuable, because I get a lot more reps against him than Aidan.
Right.
And he's got a ton of ability. I just hope he's able to show it.
By the way, that was a Buckeye giving a kudos to a Wolverine there.
That's right.
For a little bit.
That's right.
Maybe real quick, just to finish up, I asked you about the defense as a whole, because from the outside looking in every day at training camp, it looked to me like a defense that's really improved. Obviously, they've got to stay healthy.
Yeah.
But really, they've got talent at all three levels, Taylor. And the secondary is maybe the best secondary that they've had since I've been covering the team in 2009. So just your thoughts of the defense, what you saw over training camp, and what they could potentially be.
It feels to me, I don't know other calls, it feels to me that they're more aggressive than they've ever been. And I think that's because I'm sure Shep believes I got the guys who can handle this.
Yeah.
I have guys who can hold up in man coverage if I need them to. I have guys that can win one-on-ones or beat double teams in the pass rush if I need them to. Like you said, there's guys at every level who are arguably the top at their position. So they seem very aggressive, and they're going on the attack. So it's been a challenge, and there were definitely some growing pains for us as an offense early on in camp. But once we were able to iron those out, it was good for us.
How do you like John's offense?
Well, for me, and especially as far as the run game's concerned, Hank's the run game coordinator.
Yeah.
So not a lot of that has changed for me. And then pass game is like, it's you pass blocking. You're just pass blocking. So I know there's things that from Johnny's background that he's going to like and he's going to want to bring.
Yeah.
I know that there's concepts that, I'm not going to like, oh, this is the concept. There's concepts that he likes, and there's philosophies that he has as far as how we're going to operate as an offense. But I think bringing him in the idea was we're not going to scrap everything.
Yeah.
We're going to let him add his flavor, and he's going to do his thing as the OC. But we also know what we've been good at here, so there's going to be some continuity as well.
And I thought he said it good when we first talked to him. He said, look, this was the number one offense in the league last year. I just don't need to screw it up. I'm going to have some things that I like to do, a lot of the pre-snap motions and getting guys in space and creating one-on-one matchups. That's the Gruden era. That's the West Coast offense. That's what he does. But I think he was smart to say, look, we've got a lot of talent. Let's just do what we've been doing that's successful. You're going to add your wrinkles, and I don't think the normal fan will see a whole lot of differences in the.
I don't think they will.
offense.
No, I don't think they will. And a lot of it's the nuance. Maybe it's like route detail, route depth, something like that. Maybe it's man beaters versus zone beaters. Maybe it's different checks against zero that he likes. There's going to be a lot that people they're not going to grasp it.
All right, let's finish with this one. Division matchups are big. But how big is this one week one? Not only just to set the tone for the season, set a statement to the division, to the rest of the NFC, but look, according to Vegas, these are the two teams that are favored to win the NFC North. How big of a test is this week one? How important is this game week one? You still got 16 after it, so it's not make or break, but does it down there to you guys, does it seem like a bigger week one than normal?
Bigger than normal, I'm not going to blow it up to be bigger than it is. I mean, it's a football game, but it is a divisional game, and those divisional games are very important as far as, later in the season, postseason's concerned. And this is a team that we know they're super talented, they're super young, and they got playmakers. So it's going to be fun. And playing there, like we get to play in their home field, and that's a good home field advantage. We've had some success there over the years, but that doesn't make it any easier to go in there and try to get a win, especially week one. So, it's going to be a great matchup, and I expect it to be a good game.
What does Micah bring to that defense?
I think the biggest thing, obviously, he's a superstar.
Yeah.
He's a superstar pass rusher. But now they have two guys on the edge. Obviously, getting rid of Kenny Clark, you don't have as big of a presence in the interior, but there are also some young guys on the interior. But when you have two guys on the edge, like a lot of teams just have one, and it's like you can game plan for that. But then they got Rashawn Gary on the other side, who's been a Pro Bowler. So you want to stay ahead of the sticks, basically.
Yeah.
You want to go first down, second down, first down if you can, and then when they're out there, you have a plan for them.
Well, it should be fun. Football is back.
Yep.
Green Bay on a Sunday, Lambeau Field, week one. There doesn't really get better than that. Taylor, thanks for taking the time. Good luck this season.
Thank you.